Hey guys, this video is about democratic socialism, with the emphasis on the word democratic. And this video proves why democratic socialism is bullshit.
Trigger warning. This video violates all forms of safe spaces. Leftists, run immediately.
You're fucking fight!
Before going on with the video, we first have to look at two quotes. I am a socialist. A very different kind of socialist from your friend Count Revenlow. The second quote. We have seen above, the first step in the revolution by the working class is to raise the proletariat to the position of ruling class, to win the battle of democracy. Just from that offset, it would seem like socialism is intertwined with democracy. But what really hammers the point is when you look at where the quotes actually come from. The first one comes from Adolf Hitler. And the second one comes from Karl Marx. So both these people claim to be socialists, and Karl Marx, the founder of socialism, wants to win the battle of democracy. What this proves is that democracy is a weapon for socialism, and that there's no good kind of socialism. We'll go back to Adolf Hitler's version of socialism, but let's stick with the roots, with Karl Marx. Marx believed in dialectic materialism, so the world would move from feudalism, capitalism, socialism, and communism. So these were all staged, and socialism was a part towards communism. Now we should all know that Marx also predicted the failure of capitalism and that it would one day destroy itself.
Nope.
Didn't happen. Maybe a lot of Marx's predictions were just bullshit. You never know. Communism hasn't been tried in the right way, as communists will claim incorrectly. But the underlying factor behind socialism is resentment towards success and coercion. That word is key, coercion, because that is what socialism must rely upon. The idea of socialism builds up from the resentment of success. Some people doing better than others. That means that it must have been unjust. It can't be that a doctor is more skilled and more demanding than a factory worker. It has to be that the doctor has been unjust with his success, and that it is not fair for the doctor to make so much more money than a factory worker. So what we must do is use coercion to bring it to a level playing field. That line of reasoning can be scrutinized upon and placed upon all the other ideologies on the left, whether it's progressivism, social liberalism, socialism, democratic socialism, communism, Leninism, Marxism, Stalinism, Nazism, yes, Nazism, whatever you may want to call it. Because it rests the collective above the individual. Where the individual is placed above the collective, whether that's the state or the group, all acts rely upon voluntary consent. Take for instance, if you buy an iPhone from Apple, and if you pay $650, obviously you value the iPhone over the $650. Well, Apple values the $650 over the iPhone. It was all voluntary. It didn't need a gun to your head. But take the example of a socialist welfare state. Say one of the socialist paradises such as Sweden. You put a gun to the head of wealthy business owners and you tell them you have to subsidize poverty for those in the low income earning brackets. Under a true free society, the acts of helping the poor will be left to churches, to community organizations who will voluntarily use their own money and their own time to help the poor. But under a socialist state, that is completely disregarded because it is assumed that the state will take over, and the state has the moral authority to point a gun at someone's face, take their money, and subsidize poverty. Now, if you didn't notice, all of this happened under the consent of democracy. In order to have a welfare state and subsidize poverty, it requires the consent of the mass of the population. Surely the people who object to this will be in the minority, otherwise it wouldn't happen in the first place. Just because this act is taking place through the ballot initiative instead of revolution doesn't make it any more benevolent. Just by adding the word democracy to an evil philosophy doesn't make it any less of an evil philosophy. Take for instance, democratic tyranny. Tyranny is an evil philosophy, but if you add democracy into it, it wouldn't make it any less of an evil philosophy. If 5 gang members democratically decide to beat up some random guy on the street, that wouldn't make that act any less evil. In this way, democracy can be used to strip 49% of the public's rights, and from that range from 49 to 1%. It doesn't matter. Rights come as individuals and are inalienable. So now in this year, it has been interesting. There was a candidate named Bernie Sanders with his democratic socialist principles who had mass support from college students and basic low-lifers. These lowlifers have been going around in this recent US election telling us that you see these dictatorships, these socialists, these communist dictatorships all around the world, regardless of whether it is Venezuela, whether it is communist China or Russia. Those are parts of socialism, but they're the bad parts of socialism. They can't deny that they're socialists in principle because these dictatorships claim to be socialist. But their response is, that's an obscure kind of socialism. That's not the one we want. We're looking to Scandinavia, to Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. But then the question is begged to ask, how on the heck do you think that they have the massive, large welfare states? Do you think the wealthier people just go up to government saying, oh, take our money and give it to the poor? Obviously they don't. It's done using the force of a gun. The wealthy can't decide to not pay these enormous taxes. They either have to go on with it, which most of them do, or as some do, they leave the country, as did the founder of IKEA. So now this is an attempt to rebrand socialism and to take the whole point of socialism, which is the collective over the individual, and then add democracy to it, and then making the point that it makes a difference, which it just fucking doesn't. In the end, we have to move back to Nazism. It is imperative to note that socialism is socialism, regardless of what the left claims to be. Hitler was just as much of a socialist as Hugo Chavez, or Nikita Khrushchev, or Mao Zedong. They all believed in the collective over the individual. It's based on the contempt for free enterprise, free markets, and free trade. Just because the left associates the right with racism does not disprove the theory and the evidence pointing to Hitler being a socialist. Just simply look at Hitler's party.
The National Socialist Workers' Party.
There's the word socialist in it. I'm sure it has a fucking meaning. To conclude, socialism requires coercion from the state or from the collective toward the individual, regardless of the way you do it, whether it's through revolutions or a ballot box. It does not change the fact that you're coercing someone to give up his individual liberties. Just adding the word democratic into it does not change the meaning of socialism, which is still immoral and evil. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video on why democratic socialism is bullshit. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you want similar and great content. I want to explain why I haven't uploaded for about a week, and it's because I've been really fucking sick. If you can see from here, the weather in New England is horrific. It's at 37 degrees, and it went down to like the 30s for the last week, and it was just horrible. But be sure to expect way more regular videos from now on, because I'm feeling a lot better and I just want to make the new content. And just don't unsubscribe, because you're a racist if you do so. I'll catch you in the next video. See ya.